Realty. I am a realtor in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So all of the information that I'm about to say on this presentation is with regards to the Ontario situation and my knowledge being of the Ottawa market specifically. So this is a presentation that I first put together for the Early Career Research Network for someone who's asked me to present to a small group. So this will serve as the webinar replay for anyone who watched that presentation and would like to see it again. But it's also good general knowledge for anyone who is interested in purchasing a home and is in the very early stages and wants to know whether it's a good idea, what the process will look like ahead, and then some of the myths that surround home purchasing and home ownership, and then just some strategies to be successful and get off on the right foot. So we'll go through it here. So first, let's start with the reasons where you might want to buy a home. There's no right or wrong reason to purchase a home. If it works for you, that's great. That said, there are logical and emotional reasons, and you have to decide for yourself what is going to carry weight. If you know what your reasons are, you're going to, number one, avoid overspending on a home. You're going to reduce the stress of the whole process, and buying a home can be quite a stressful process. It's a big purchase, no matter who you are. So make sure that you're approaching it in a sensible manner. You're going to use your time more efficiently by framing your search criteria. And then last of all, you're going to eliminate homes that don't meet your needs throughout your search. So let's talk about a few of those reasons. So the emotional reasons, these should not be your only reasons. So number one is pride of ownership. That's great. There's a certain feeling of accomplishment that a lot of people have with the idea of owning a home or buying a home, and that is totally fine. It just shouldn't be the only reason you buy a house. Family or societal pressure. There is a feeling in North America and within many subcultures in North America where there's a feeling that you've made it once you own a house. I would say this is the weakest reason out of all the emotional ones. If your family is pressuring you to buy, that by itself is not enough of a reason to buy the house. So, and then the last one is fear of missing out. That's a real thing. I feel like if you don't make that move now, you're somehow falling behind. Then there's some rational reasons. Now, these give you a little bit more solid ground to stand on as you're looking for a home. So number one, if it makes financial sense. There are certain situations where it makes more sense to rent. But if you're looking at the numbers, if you're looking at your total cost of ownership, you're looking at the way you build equity in a home, all that kind of thing. If it makes more financial sense to buy a home, then that may be a very valid reason to enter the purchasing market for a home. Then there's your quality of life. This is if it lets you be close to your job by buying a home, if it, gives you a certain size of unit, if it means that you don't have to looking for a new lease in 2 years. These are all sort of quality of life issues. And then among those is setting down roots. Just the idea that you can know where you're going to be because you have bought a little piece of land or a little piece of property for yourself so that you can set down roots and have a sense of stability going forward. These are good, rational reasons. There's certain myths around purchasing a home, and I'll do what I can to debunk these for you. One is, if I don't buy now, I'll never be able to afford a home. This is especially pertinent in the unusual market that we've seen in much of Canada, and certainly in Ottawa with related to COVID. We were already in a seller's market in 2020 in Ottawa before COVID really hit, and now that supply has been reduced so much that it spikes prices up across the board. There's a feeling that housing prices are going to get away from you. The rate of increase is going to outstrip your rate of earning. And that is simply not necessarily true. There are usually ways you can shift your savings, your spending habits to make sure you can put down the nest egg that you need to purchase a home. There's also, you may simply need to adjust your expectations as to what type of home, location, things like that. Don't worry that the pace that we're seeing price increasing right now is going to continue forever. Ottawa traditionally is a very good, stable market, but the current rate of increase we're seeing is double at least what we usually see for Ottawa. Owning a home is a good investment. I'm putting this under myths because it is not always true. If you purchased a house in 2019 and it followed the market, and you sold it this year, you sold it next year, yeah, you've probably made money. You've probably outstripped a lot of other means of investment in terms of what you've made. However, for most people, especially people buying their first house, their home is not solely an investment. It is, like I said in the reasons, it's a place to live. It is a means of setting down roots, and it is a way to build equity, but it's not, it's not a stock or a bond or something that you can simply trade. It's a little bit less of a liquid asset, and you need to make sure that you are treating it not just as an asset. The financial reasons for buying a home are not the only reasons. And then the last one is a really heinous one for first-time buyers, is buy the biggest home that you can afford. This one I would simply qualify and say, buy the most suitable house that is the biggest in terms of what it brings to your lifestyle, what you need at the moment that you can comfortably afford. And comfortably afford is a very important qualifier here, just to say that you do not, under any circumstances, even with interest rates being so low right now, do not want to put yourself in a position of being house poor, where paying for your mortgage, paying for your property taxes, the heating, all that kind of stuff are eating up a large portion of your day-to-day expenses. Then there's your home search process. So let's talk about what actually happens as you go look for a home. So there's 7 stages. CMHC breaks this up a little bit differently, but this is what I have found, especially for first-time home buyers in my experience, works really well in kind of framing the experience. So first one of those is simply preparation. If you know your needs and wants and your financial means at the beginning of the search, it is going to help you immensely as you go forward. And if you ever want a really full, detailed explanation of the housing search process, simply get in touch with me directly via email or cell, or you can go to my website at nickfunditis.ca, and I have a much more detailed walkthrough here. We'll cover it in brief in these slides. So first of all, make 3 lists for yourself. Make a needs list, so the must-haves for your home. Make a wants list, so if you can satisfy it within your budget, all the things that you want to satisfy. Next is your deal breakers list, so anything that you don't want in a home. So for many people, that's you don't want to back onto the highway. For me and my wife, when we bought our second house, we didn't want a pool. It was not a responsibility we wanted to have, and not something we would have felt safe with our kids. Number 2 is speak with a lender. If you are buying your first house, you're probably going to have a mortgage on that house. So the 2 places people typically look are with a mortgage broker and a bank. I'm a big fan of mortgage brokers being able to shop all the different lenders, and I do find that they're much better on educating purchasers on the process. However, you go with the one that is the best fit for you. And then 3 is get prepared early. If you don't think you're going to be buying a house for the next year or 2, there's zero harm in talking to a lender ahead of time. The person who has a good snapshot of their financial picture and what they need and want is going to be a lot better prepared for the housing market when it is time to enter it. Then there's the home search itself. So you've got your preparation done. You're going to search by process of elimination. So 1, choose a realtor if you want one. It is 100% possible, and I say this as a realtor, it is 100% possible to go find a home on your own. I do typically find it's easier for most people to find it with a realtor if this is a process they're new and unfamiliar with, and it's not going to cost you anything extra in the end to have a realtor of your own. But whatever you do, whether you do it on your own or you do it with a realtor, search in an organized manner. So have a scope, have the areas you want to look in, have the price range you want to look in, and know that needs and wants list, and then eliminate properties and neighborhoods that are unsuitable. And what you're looking for is the best house out of the available stock. 3 is offer and negotiation. If you have a realtor, if you take away everything else that a realtor is supposed to do for you, negotiation is where we add the most value to you. When you negotiate, you're trying to remove emotion from the negotiation process. So keep in mind that every negotiation is different. This is going to be because of the house. That's going to be because of who the seller is and the agent are on the other side negotiating against you. It is going to have to do with your particular needs and wants. So every negotiation is different. Number 2, focus on meeting your needs in the negotiation and not just on getting a win. And I say this as someone who's been at the negotiation table with clients, hundreds of times now. That's, you will lose if you get emotional. Sometimes a seller or their agent is going to be obnoxious. Sometimes you're going to get forced into having to offer on it, or not forced into, but you're going to see a property you love, and of course it's on Friday afternoon after you've had a long week at work and you are tired. Don't let emotion get the best of you. If you can negotiate logically, that's where you're going to come out ahead in the end. And then number 3 is patience, preparation, and knowledge about the market are all key in getting the best result for yourself. Once you have an offer accepted, it may be a conditional offer where you still get to have some conditions, and then that's where we enter the conditional period. In Ottawa, typical conditional period lasts about a week. And if you're purchasing a condo, it lasts about 2 weeks because you have the additional burden of having to get the status certificate from the condo board. So there are really only 3 types of problems that can come up, and we'll talk about those. First, the most common conditions that you'll have on a home are an inspection condition. This is especially important on an older home or an unusual home. So say if it had like a preserved wood foundation or a flat roof that are not kind of the most common things. Then it's a financing condition to make sure that you can comfortably afford the home. And then there is legal review. This is the most often left out of the 3. Not having a legal review condition does not preclude you from having an offer reviewed by your lawyer. It just changes the means by which you can walk away and have your deposit returned to you. If you are purchasing a condo, you're probably going to have a legal review clause in there to make sure that you can review the status certificates before deciding on a firm purchase. And then number 2, how do you deal with a problem if it comes up? Well, first of all, like I alluded to, there are only 3 types of problems that can happen when you are purchasing a home. Let's talk about inspection to frame those. So the first type of problem is what you would call a live with it problem, or a sort of a normal problem. If you're looking at, say, a late 1960s, early 1970s home, like where I live in Beacon Hill, then there's a good chance, which is where I'm broadcasting from right now, then there's a good chance it's going to have aluminum wiring. This is simply a live with it problem, even though this is a fire hazard, because number 1, it has a known permanent fix, so an electrician can solve that issue, and number 2, it's fairly inexpensive to fix. So when you're negotiating on a home of that age, if you know that's a typical problem and it comes up on an inspection, you just say, hey, that's kind of one of those things I knew would be typical of this home, and I'm going to budget to fix it on closing. And better yet, you will have known that it was a good possibility and you've negotiated that into your offer already. Number 2, the second type of problem is what I would call a renegotiate problem. This would be something that is generally a little bit more expensive, say 1% to 2% of the value of the home. And it is generally something that is a surprise to you, the buyer, and is a surprise to the seller as well. So if it's a surprise to both of you, usually there's a good appetite to go back to the negotiating table and figure out either a new value or determine who's going to fix the problem before closing. And then number 3 is a walk away problem. And a walk away problem might be like a major foundation issue or mold or a toxic substance like asbestos if you don't have a good comfort level with those things, or if you find that remediation of them is just going to be so expensive that it does not make sense to pursue the purchase. Now, in terms of whatever problems you find during a home inspection or during a review of your financing or a legal review, the important thing is to know that you are in the driver's seat here. If your conditions are properly worded on your agreement of purchase and sale, then you get to choose whether any problem is a live with it problem, a renegotiate problem, or a walk away problem. So there you go. Once you have decided that you've solved what other problems and you have no walk away problems, then you enter what's called the firm purchase. So you serve the seller a notice that you're happy to go forward with the purchase, and this is the stage where your lawyer sort of takes over. So your lawyer now is coordinating with the seller's lawyer to transfer ownership of the property. They're going to apply the mortgage to the property on closing day, and you get to focus on the move itself. So, hiring lawyers, calling your internet provider to make sure it's getting transferred to the new home, setting up your hydro, natural gas, whatever is applicable to the new property that you're buying. This is the point of no turning back. And then finally, some point between when you have a firm purchase when you first get the offer and closing date, which is anywhere usually from about 30 to 90 days in Ottawa. It can be longer, it can be shorter. Then you actually hit closing day itself. So closing day, stretch out the wrist. You're going to have a whole bunch of documents to sign either electronically or in person. Closing day will go smoothly if you're prepared. So if you have a realtor, they're going to help make sure that everybody is coordinating their dates and making sure that everybody has the documents they need. Nobody's missing any deadlines. The only things I would say about closing day is number 1, try not to move on closing day itself, because if there's any delays, you're going to have a truck full of your stuff with nowhere to put your stuff. And then what kinds of problems can come up? There's all kinds of problems that can come up on closing day. You could show up and the appliances have been removed. There could be damage. I've even heard of owners still being in the house on closing day because they have not, they were slow packing up and they haven't quite moved out yet. These are all things that can happen. If you've got a realtor, immediately let them know what the issue is, and they'll try and help you solve it on closing day. If you don't have a realtor, you're going to go straight to your lawyer to help solve those problems. So there you go. That's closing day. And the last thing I want you to think about in terms of stages is just beyond closing. So be a wise homeowner. And what I mean by that is build a war chest for yourself for repairs. A really good rule of thumb is to set aside 1% of the value of your home every year for repairs, maintenance, and upgrades. That way, in a few years, when you have to replace the furnace or reshingle the roof, you're going to have money that's already set aside for that. Keep in touch with your professionals. So your lender is a great person to keep in touch with because they will help you keep appraised of rates. If, like now, rates are extremely low, you may want to actually break your current mortgage and take advantage of the lower rates. Your inspector would be another example because they can often connect you with really good trades, carpenters, plumbers, things like that. And then your realtor is good at just giving you an update of how your property fits into the market. Personally, I really love when people give me a call and want to show off their renovations, because how not everybody wants to see your home renovations. Your realtor always wants to see your home renovations because you're going to be giving me a call when you sell your home in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and I want to give advice as to whether that renovation you're thinking of doing is a good one or not in terms of the value of your home, in terms of the equity it adds. So maintenance and smart renovations defend your equity is the last point I'll make there. So as to actually choosing the people who work with you, here's the list of who you'll generally have. So realtor is optional, like I said. Most purchases do get done with one in Ottawa. A lender of some sort, a lawyer, a home inspector, specialty inspectors sometimes, and then movers. And I'll talk just briefly about each of them and then how to select them. So realtor Our job is to help you understand the market, the purchase price, and then to represent you in negotiations, with negotiations being the single most significant value we bring to the table. So we're paid commission by the seller usually, and there's no additional cost to you. We're optional, and then negotiation is key, like I said. A lender, they're there to secure a mortgage for you and help you understand your financial options. So they're typically paid commission as well. However, it's by the lender. Now, there's generally no advantage for a mortgage broker to take you to one lender over another, but if there is, they need to disclose that to you. Mortgage broker or bank, like I said before, are the two most common options. And then have your documents in order. So, know what your pay is if you have, whether you're on a permanent contract or a temporary one, have your taxes done, all kind of things that you can bring in front of your lender to set down, and they can get a really good sense of whether you can afford to go look for a home or not. And then pre-approval versus binder. So a lot of people will come to me, a realtor, and say, hey, I got a pre-approval from my bank. A pre-approval is just a calculation. A binder, which you get later in the process, will actually be the written commitment from a lender to you for a certain house at a certain price on a certain closing date. A lawyer, they'll handle the transfer of the ownership for you. So you need one to purchase in Ontario. They're paid directly by you. The prices vary quite a bit, but you do pay them directly and you pay HST on top. So their job, they'll review status certificates for condos, and they also coordinate with the seller's lawyer to transfer ownership and apply the mortgage to the property. Then there's your home inspector. Their job is to give you a clear picture of the home. So they're paid directly by you. In Ottawa, it seems to be about $500 for a townhome or a small home plus HST. That'll get you a 3-hour inspection with you and your realtor. If you have a realtor, generally they're obligated to attend the inspection. You're not actually obligated, but it's encouraged. And the inspector creates a report to give you an idea of the physical condition of the home. And that's what I was talking about. Categorize whatever the inspector finds into the 3 categories of problems that I told you about earlier. Then there's specialty inspectors. The home inspector that most people hire is supposed to be a generalist. There's going to be situations where they see less often and they can't give you as much guidance. So if you have any of these unique situations, then you may be hiring an additional inspector as well. They're paid by you directly, the buyer. So this would be somebody like a septic or a well or asbestos testing, or somebody looking at a flat roof or a boiler system for heating. There's lots of specific situations I won't go into, but feel free to ask me if you like. Then there's movers. So budget a little bit for the cost of moving, because they're going to safely move your belongings. You don't have to use movers, especially for your first home. You might not have that much stuff to move. In which case, bribe your friends in pizza and beer and get a U-Haul like most of us do. But if you buy a mover, they're paid directly by you, usually with a deposit before moving day and the balance on moving day or just after. And then moving brokers are a thing as well. They're a convenient way where you can do a one-stop call, and they can help price out a few movers for you. And there's generally no extra cost to that. We have a few good moving brokers in Ottawa. So when you're choosing these people to work for you, there's a few ways people generally do it. So one is referrals. Number 2 is online reviews. And number 3 is simply just vetting the person, anything you can find out about them. So let's start with referrals, which is, I would say, in many ways is the best way to get referred to, like a realtor or a home inspector or anything like that, because they're authentic. So you can often get a referral from somebody who has no skin in the game. So if you ask a trusted colleague or a trusted friend to refer you to their realtor, they're going to give you an opinion that keeps your best interests in mind, because it looks bad on them if they refer you somebody who stinks. So that's the main upside for referrals. The downside of getting referrals is, remember that if you ask somebody as a first-time home buyer and you ask another first-time home buyer, what realtor they would recommend, they often have a sample size of 1. So like, it might be the only realtor that they met and they happen to have a good experience. So there's just not that much to go on. Just keep that in mind. But that said, I'm a big proponent of referrals. Number two, you can go by online reviews. So a lot of professionals, let's go with mortgage brokers, have a lot of reviews on Google or on their website or on they might have testimonials on Facebook. So it creates a larger sample size to draw from, and you can really cherry pick out of those reviews somebody who's in a similar situation to yourself. So you, as a first-time home buyer, you can look for reviews from other first-time home buyers, which is super useful. Do keep in mind that marketing is in play here. People only tend to review online if somebody, if they had a really good or a really bad experience, first of all. And number two, many professionals only have 5-star reviews. So how are you picking between different people with 5-star reviews? And some people are just better at getting reviews. It doesn't mean that the people who don't have a ton of reviews are, bad mortgage brokers. It just means that that's not the focus of how they get their new clients. And then last of all, there's vetting. So you just go do some of the research for yourself. So see what your professional has to say about them online. Do they have a blog or a podcast that you can follow? Is it clear from their messaging on their website or where they meet people that they're competent in the areas that you need them to be? So if you were, and I'm going to pick on myself here. So I'm great with certain kinds of home buyers and sellers. But if you want to ask me about a commercial like mini mall or something, you want to come do a commercial purchase with me, I'm going to refer you to a colleague. It's just not something I do. It's not something I'm good at. And so I know it would only result in kind of negative publicity and a negative experience for my clients. So it's not something I take on. But I'm clear through my messaging that I'm good in certain other areas. And in fact, very good in other areas. Downsides of vetting, just keep in mind that some older or more established professionals, I have colleagues who've been realtors for 25 years and they have a terrible website, but they're good realtors. You just have to keep in mind that, not everybody has the same sort of online savvy there. And then presence can be skewed by marketing spend. So maybe you'll see a realtor with a lot of billboards or a lot of, you feel like you'll see their ads everywhere. Sometimes that's savvy marketing more than it actually is in terms of expertise. You want to have somebody who's also going to pay attention to you specifically and your needs. So what I would say is out of these three methods, so referrals and online reviews and just vetting for yourself, do all three and make sure that whoever you're choosing to hire for your various professionals kind of passes all those, or, pick two and make sure that they're at least strong in those. Then I'll leave you with a few resources at the end. So become an educated home buyer. This is going to help you a lot. The sources I would say that are most useful for you as a new home buyer are the Ottawa Real Estate Board. You can get a good feel for what the market is doing. Ottawa Real Estate Board, their publications are a lot better than going to read, say, like the Citizen or something, or CBC or whatnot, because CTV is trying to get viewers. The Citizen is trying to sell newspapers, and there's going to be a slant in those, whereas Aura just kind of reports what the stats are, and you can see what what the market is doing compared to last year. Geo Ottawa is a fantastic resource that not enough people know about, and this is simply what it is a fancy map of Ottawa. But within that map, you can do overlays to find out whether it's heritage, overlays on a property, what the zoning is, what you can use it for, whether it's in a floodplain, who your city councilor is, all the way down to, how close is the fire station, what school board it's in, and what day does garbage get picked up. So if you're at all, nerdy and like to dig into that data for yourself, Geo Ottawa is a fantastic site. Then there's CMHC, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Commission. They have a lot of great publications and a lot of great free publications that are stats based, that will tell you what the market is doing, what the predictions are, and they're generally pretty accurate. With COVID, I don't know how accurate they're going to be this year. It's been such a weird year throughout the country. But there's first time home buyer guides. There's a fantastic maintenance guide, a home maintenance guide, and it's free to download the PDF. Or you can pay a few bucks and you can get the physical copy mailed to you. You can find out what rents are in different areas and what vacancy rates are in cities across the country. So great resource, great website. A little bit difficult to navigate, but super useful. There's the Real Estate Investors Network. So if you're thinking of house hacking, where you might buy a multi-unit like a duplex and live in one of the units, Real Estate Investment Network is a great one, and they have a very active Ottawa chapter. And then last of all is podcasts. The two that come to mind right off the bat are Bigger Pockets, which is a really good real estate investing one. And then the other one's called Burn Your Mortgage. So just strategies for getting financially ahead while you own a home. So that is all for me. If you have any further questions, I used to be an elementary school teacher before I was a realtor. And I love answering questions. So you can see that I have a podcast on my, available through my site or through wherever you get your podcasts. It's called Realtor in Your Pocket. I have a very active blog and active on all the social media links. If you can spell my last name, Funditis, there's only 2 Nick Funditises in the world, and I'm the easier one to find. I'm also the only one based in Ottawa, so it's super easy to find. And that is about it. Thanks for watching this. If you have any other questions, I'm posting this up on YouTube and social, and of course you can find more of my videos, more information on YouTube. Happy searching for your first home there, and if you have the right reasons for doing it, it's a fantastic journey, and I wish you all the best, and I hope to hear from you. Take care.